Therefore, as folks come in, they'll get to answer yes to that particular question. But Christine, we missed out knowing that we're going to call you Queen Christine. So I'm just making sure it's on the video so that everyone knows that about you. All right.
Yeah, I got no problem with that. They know that at work. We're good.
That's the important part.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You guys might see a couple faces that you don't know. Jen Peterson and Ben Pasker actually are part of the Become More staff, and they are here to help us out or help me out today. So please know they're my support team.
Jen's so great. She's my
I was going to
fave.
say, Tammy, I don't know if you need support, but thank you, Bobby, Joe, Bobby, I appreciate that so much.
I believe it or not, the team is very complimentary of me. But they also know that right now I'm freaking out just a tidge bit. So it's always good to have a friendly face, and in case something goes wrong, they will bail me. So just y'all know, right? It's always good to have a backup plan, and that's what that's called.
That's awesome. I think we're right at 10, but we'll just give it a little bit more because I see there's still a few people coming on. So
hi Kelly.
As we're getting started, I know that Tammy has been so nice to welcome everybody to the call as they're coming on, but if you don't have your video on, we would love if you could do that today. This is going to be a very interactive event, lots of participation, and so it will be great to see everybody's, doesn't have to be smiling faces, just faces. I'm okay with faces. We all have the day, right? All right. Just a few more seconds here. I'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Bobby Joe, and I am the current VP of GRHRA. Our president, Joanna, usually likes to do these, but her kids are on spring break this week. And so I said, I will help with this. And Tammy this is one of my favorite presentations. And so I'm so excited to be able to introduce her and talk with you guys about no jerks at work, which I don't know. I feel like we've all experienced those. And sometimes I feel like I'm the jerk at work when I have to hold people accountable. So I'm sure we'll get into a lot of that. What our plan is just quick introduction from me. I'm going to take you through a couple upcoming events that we have. And then Tammy's going to spend most of the whole next hour until 11 o'clock talking with us. And then at the end, we'll leave a few minutes in case there are any questions. So pretty straightforward agenda for the day. In terms of upcoming GRHRA events, we are so excited that you guys are part of our organization. And so we try and do a variety of things throughout the year to engage with our members and help you guys connect, learn, all that beautiful kind of networking stuff we do as well. So tonight, actually, we are meeting at the Riverfront Grill in Rock Island from 5 to 7. It's an in-person networking event where you can come and go as you please. You want to have a drink and commiserate with people about how terrible open enrollment was, we can do that. Or you want to stay for a couple hours and just chit chat, fine. Totally up to you what you use it for, but we would be glad to see any and all of you there this afternoon. Caroline, our secretary on the GRHRA board, is hosting the event tonight, so that should be pretty cool. Then coming up on the 21st of this month, there is another virtual event kind of through SHRM called Unleashing Leadership Excellence. I cannot say that. Unleashing Leadership Excellence, a workplace on the 21 Irrefutable Laws by John Maxwell. So that link is live on the website if you guys want to register for that. Again, free for all of our GRHRA members, as all of our events are. For the virtual ones, and only a few dollars if you are not a GRHRA member. If you guys want to share that with anybody on your team that might find that helpful. And then finally, the Ignite conference is coming up in April. Joanna and the team has worked so hard to get some really, really great speakers. I'm excited. The registration's open on the website. Doesn't cost very much money, but it is a jam-packed day of just all kinds of goodness. Lots of positive speakers, new HR trends, AI, Oh my gosh, I can't even think of all the stuff, but it is going to be a fantastic day. It is going to be at the casino in Davenport. And so if you have any questions on that or want to register, all of the information is up on the GRHRA website. So that will be good. And Leona, who's on the call here, is doing a wine poll. I know I've mentioned alcohol twice in a couple minutes, but that's okay. So if anybody wants to donate bottles, she's still looking for some people to do that, and all the money goes to a great cause within our SHRM Foundation. So now on to the good stuff. Today's presenter, Miss Tammy K. Rogers. She has a laundry list of awesome things about her that I will let her talk about, because I know she's always like, you don't have to read my bio, but it's fine. We've already had this conversation. So I will just say she does a lot of amazing things, which she can tell you a little bit about. But today she's going to talk about no jerks at work. So again, if you can, please turn on your camera. Please interact as much as you can and enjoy today's presentation. So I will let you take it from there, Miss Tammy.
Awesome. I appreciate that. So guys, we're going to jump in and I am going to actually share my screen. And if you've never looked at this or know what this is actually called a Miro board. And a Miro board, it's M-I-R-O. And all it is an infinitive whiteboard. It goes forever. It lasts forever. And all of us can play on it. And if we were going to actually be on a session a little longer, I would teach you how to do it and we'd all play together. But it is the methodology that we use in our virtual workshops so that we are not just talking at you. And so just know that I'm going to be going through this board and I'll give you guys access to it so that you can look at it after the session and all that kind of stuff so that you know what that looks like. So here's the deal. Research tells us that 75% of all workers in the United States have seen and or experienced jerks at work in that particular spot. And what I'd like to do to get started is I would like you to go into the chat bar and I would like you to say, what are the specific kind of behaviors that you have seen and or experienced, not just at the organization that you work with right now, but organizations that you have, worked at in the past. What behaviors, right? What have you seen? What have people done that you would say, now that's a jerk at work? All right. So go ahead and just type that into the chat and we'll see what you guys come up with. Yelling at coworkers, talking down. Ethan, that's one of the ones that drives me crazy, right? Oh, that person, no one else gets to speak, right? In that particular aggressive sarcasm. But oh, condescending, very aggressive. What does aggressive look like? Oh, girls, for heaven's sakes, not my job. I'm not going to be cooperative. Okay. Oh, good ones. Sending nasty emails. I call those missives. Okay. Excellent. Belittling employees is the easiest way to control them. Kelly, oof, oof. Okay. Passive aggressive. I've seen that a lot. We're pretty good at that here in the Midwest, that Midwest nice thing where my mother-in-law used to do that all the time, right? That's nice, which meant that sucks. Loud, obnoxious statements. Oh, unfortunately, I might fall into that one. Sorry. Okay. All right. This is a great list. Okay. Not respecting stated boundaries. Oh, one of the ones that drive me crazy. Not responding purposefully, ignoring, okay, in that spot, and like setting someone aside, not being inclusive. Okay. That is another really a one we see a lot of. Okay. Guys, this is a phenomenal list. Now, let's talk about this for just a minute. When we look at the research, we have actually done this session hundreds of times, talked to thousands is maybe too many, but hundreds of companies about this particular topic. And the words and the phrases that we see most often are actually on this one. And notice the stuff that's bigger. This is a word cloud, so you guys know this stuff. The bigger ones, we see that more common. The tiny small ones, we see that less less frequently in the comments. So this is really kind of what we're talking about. It's like, you know, this is what we're seeing in the workforce. Now, in that spot, right? We're actually seeing an increase in this as well. So if we had, when we started talking about this 10 years ago, we saw less of this than we are seeing now. All right. So, question for all of you, and I'm just going to do a shout out and let you guys kind of answer. So, if you want to put your mics on, why do you think we're seeing more jerk like behavior today than we did, let's say, 10 years ago? Go for it, Rhonda.
I was gonna say less face-to-face in person.
The research says that when we actually went virtual, we actually got in this place where we're kind of used to being by ourselves. And then as we've come back to the workforce, we don't know how to act civilly as much as we've done before. And we kind of have to relearn that skill set. Bobby Joe, your hand's up. Give me another reason.
I can unmute myself. I also think it's a different, like we've talked about the 5 generations in the workforce and people not being able to relate well to each other.
So we are in kind of a society right now, and I'm glad you said it that way versus another way. It's that generation, okay? It's not so much generationally based, but we are in a world right now that is pretty complex, and we do have kind of different value sets. Sometimes it's generational, but sometimes it's lots of other things that kind of get in that way. And when we have that, I am different from you, oftentimes we're going to see that clash and judgment that comes from seeing the differences and not necessarily respecting or appreciating those differences. So instead, we kind of push back on those differences. Really good. One more person. Why are we maybe seeing it rise in kind of this jerk-like behavior? People are allowed to get away with it. Okay, this is from Missy in the chat. If you take a look, people are allowed to get away with it. All right. So this is one of the things that's really interesting, and we're going to talk more about it. We sometimes think as organizations that we cannot have standards around behavior, right? And if we don't and are not willing to have standards around behavior, oftentimes then we don't hold folks accountable for that. And if we then don't hold the folks accountable, we are, by not saying anything, actually saying that behavior is okay. All right. Which is kind of this weird thing. If we are not addressing it, if we're not talking about it, we are actually going to see the rise of that. And oftentimes organizations are concerned about setting behavioral standards. Fair? Anything else that anybody wants to add to that?
I notice as an organization, we've put up with a lot more nowadays because it's so hard to get employees. So they push us.
All
They
right.
push us a lot more.
Again, so I want you to hear both of those things, right?
Mhm.
We're afraid of litigation and we're afraid of not being staffed. Fear is a really interesting reason to not do something. I want you to hear that again. Fear is a very interesting reason for not doing things. So when we move forward based on fear, what happens?
Well, I know that it repeats itself in a lot of the actions, and even we try to talk up our supervisors and managers, but we have to give them the confidence that they can act. But
Right.
they're held to a, wanting people in their department, so they're in a hard spot. We have to really give them a support.
There is, and there's support, there's education, there's models, there's words, there's so many things that we can do as an organization in this particular spot. And if we are making decisions, organizational decisions, personal decisions based upon fear, we traditionally don't get the outcomes that we're looking for. All right. And it is one of the things that is such an interesting spot. And it's one of the great conversations when we are looking and having like making these big decisions and those types of things. Are we doing this because it's something that is going to help us be more, grow, abundance, like headed towards the mission and the vision that we're looking for? Are we doing that because we're concerned? Are we doing that because, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And please know that that's something that actually makes us smaller instead of helping us become more. And if you guys looked at my company name, it's Become More. All right. That is part of what we believe in. How are we going to be better tomorrow than we are today? And it's not always about the size of our organization. It's not always about our bottom line and how big it is. It's not always about our geographical reach. Becoming more is a lot, it's a bigger concept than that. And what we do know is fear makes us small, courage, vision, doing the right thing makes us bigger in that particular spot. All right, I'm going to actually kind of have you guys, I'm going to put you in your very first breakout room. And in the breakout room, what I would like you to do is I would like you to talk about like what is the impact on an organization when jerkdom continues? What's the impact? Like when we continue to have jerks or allow jerks and we don't address it, what is the impact to the organization in that particular spot? I am going to put you into 2 breakout rooms. I am going to simply just do it randomly. And what you'll find is, oh, maybe I need to add another room. Let's see what happens. I want to see how many we have because there's been a bunch of people that have joined as we've started. So now it's going to be more than that. All right. Let's go here and see what happens. Okay, we still have quite a bit. Guys, we have 40 folks. It's crazy. I started out, we didn't have that many, so I got to add a whole heck of a lot more room. So let's see what we can do here. All right, because I want you to actually have that spot. Okay, now you're in a conversation where there's about 5 of you. In your room, what I would like you to do is I would like you to have a quick conversation like, what is the impact when we let jerks stay at work? And I want you to assign one person in that room who's going to be your spokesperson when you come back. And I am going to have you have this conversation very quickly. All right. I'm going to give you 90 seconds. 90 seconds, and I want to list 4, 5, 6 things that impact an organization when we allow jerks to stay at work. All right. I'll see you. Don't forget who's a spokesperson. See you in 90 seconds. Everybody's coming back. It's fantastic. Couple of more. All right, we're getting there. Okay, I'm guessing you guys have no idea what rooms we're in. Someone has little speakers on, so if you want to mute for a second, we'll see what happens. Unless, of course, it's me in that space. All right. The team one had both Eileen and Mary Jones in it. Okay, so if you can figure out who you guys are, what is one thing, one impact that happens when we let when organizations allow jerks to continue to be jerks? Anybody? Eileen Smith, Mary Jones, it's that group.
Eileen's our spokesperson.
There you go.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So the things that we had talked about was it can
Just give me one.
Oh, just one. Okay. Increases turnover. You lose your good people when you don't correct the behavior of the bad performers.
Absolutely. Folks who don't want to live in that particular world, what we see is that voluntary turnover is 50% higher when we are in a toxic work environment. 50% higher. Okay. That is a huge number. Guys, you know your stats. Excellent. My next group, Ethan and Melissa, the two of you, there were others in that group as well. But what did you guys come up with in addition to that?
Also said that it affects morale.
Okay, it does in this particular spot. So one of the things that we know, 75%, by the way, that's a SHRM stat, 75% of all employees have seen and or experienced kind of this toxicity in the workplace. And what we do know is that when we see that, all right, we have individual things that happen to us, including increased stress, increased anxiety, increased depression. And those are all of those things that actually lead to organizational burnout and the individual getting burned out working there. Okay, good. Team two, you've done great work. All right. It's going to get tougher as we go along, folks. Okay. So let's see what happens. The next team, I have Hannah and Matthew. If you guys know that particular group, who's the spokesperson in that group?
That is me. I will pick that it can impact psychological safety in the workplace.
Oh my gosh. Okay. By the way, I love that particular phrase. It's a phrase that years ago, people didn't even know what that was, right? We talked about safety and it was about your physical safety. But what we know is our emotional safety, right, is also critically important in an organization. And if I don't feel psychologically safe, if I feel like I cannot come to work, be my full self, and share my point of view without ridicule or having someone kind of in that spot make me feel less than, I am not going to. I'm going to be there physically, but I am not going to bring my best self to work. I'm not going to bring my discretionary effort to work. And so what happens is you get the least of me instead of the best of me. Very, very good. Team four, Andrea and Candy. You guys were in that group. Who's the spokesperson there?
Looks like it was me. Well, I think we had a couple of the same ones, but increased conflicts or just the loss of confidence in the managers.
Okay, she stole two. Okay, but don't worry, the rest of you, there's still more. You're in good space, right? So think about this for just a minute. I love that. You're going to see conflict increase in this particular world because, right, we have folks who are not being super civil. We have other folks that are kind of fighting in that particular spot. And we start talking. Think about this. Sometimes I don't go to have that conversation with that individual, but I'll talk to all my friends about it. So now we're starting that kind of us versus them. That continues to build these two different folks in that spot or two different factions in that spot. And we end up having conflict between those because we'll start talking about them, right? Them instead of us in that spot. So really great. And I love your second point. All right. Your second point in that is I really do expect leadership to do something about it. And if leadership doesn't do anything about it, I lose respect and confidence in my leaders. And I'm saying, can't you see that? Don't you know? Why aren't you doing something about it? All right. In that particular spot. We've gone through 4 groups. Any of the other groups have one and you're like, yes, I want to add to this. Rhonda, go for it.
One that came up kind of at the end of our conversation, which I thought was very interesting, was the impact it had on your outside client or the, or patients or whatever it is. It's not just in your workplace, that it really dissipates outside the workplace.
It's infectious. Okay. So please understand, as soon as you are in that space where you are allowing it, it tells others that it's okay. And now the next thing, it's like a disease. It goes from one person to the next person, one person, the next person, one person, the next person. Matthew, you raised your hand. Please jump in.
Well, you literally just stole what I was going to say. I was even going to relate it to being a contagion and, passing from people. And if it comes from the top, then you're telling people this is how we do business and that kind of thing. So instead, I'll say it stifles creativity and the flow of ideas.
It does that. Absolutely. And I'm going to go back to your leadership comment. If it starts at the top of an organization or someone who has a big old title, you are telling everybody in the organization, if you want to get ahead, act like that. Okay. Because we look at our leaders and we say, there are role models. So if you have a jerk and it's in your C-suite, if you have a jerk and it's your director level and they're still there and they're getting promoted and all that kind of stuff, boy, oh boy, go ahead and act like that person and we'll do it more and more. Kelly, I see your hands raised. Go for it.
This may kind of fall into some other ones, but we also had lower productivity and resentment.
Okay, so the stats are really clear on this one. And Kelly, thank you for bringing it up. There is a confidence board survey that shows us in this particular case. I'm sorry, wrong survey. Please forgive me. A Texas A&M study, okay, that tells us that we can see a 25% decrease in productivity in toxic environments. Now, we already know that just an average decent organization, we can lose somewhere between an hour and 2 hours of productivity every day by being involved in wasted excellence, okay? But now you take that and we go even further because we're scared, we're concerned, we're talking about what's going on, which is not really what we're trying to achieve. So we actually get really caught up in stuff, right? Very, very good. Anything else you guys want to add? Okay, I'm going to give you one very, very scary statistics. Okay, the conference board, which did a civility study, found in 2023 that incivility costs us as a country, okay, $500 billion a year annually. Let me say that again. Incivility causes us as a country $500 billion a year. Now, I recognize that all of you probably work for organizations that are not huge and all of that, okay? But each one of us, if we're in that spot, we are having that financial impact inside of our organization as well. So it hurts our bottom line. It hurts our staff and their ability to do their job. It impacts productivity, and we're going to see a higher kind of increase in terms of turnover in that particular spot. And if you want to be a workplace of choice, a place where people say that's the place to go, especially in a world where we're competing for talent, right? The more uncivil, the more jerks you have at work, the more people do not want to come there. And the more that leadership doesn't handle it, the more we don't trust our leaders, follow our leaders, and actually in this particular spot say, I think they have the best interest of all of us, right, in mind when they make decisions. Okay, so phenomenal list. So next question, we're going to go back to the chat. We talked about the behaviors that we are saying is jerk-like behaviors. Now what I'd like you to put in the chat is, What are the behaviors that we want? When you think about your peers and your coworkers, how would you like them to behave? Be really specific. I want them to fill in the blank. A great coworker to me does this. Okay. Take a minute, put that stuff in the chat. We'll take a look. Respectful of my ideas, respectful and honest. Listen to those two words together. Genuine curiosity, two-way feedback, follows through, makes an effort to connect. Hi, they see you in the hallway. Just say hello and make eye contact, right? Encouraging, empathy, kind. Okay. Take a minute. We're seeing this word respectful. Okay. So we say that word a lot. What does respect look like? How do when someone does this, I feel respected? Genuine, collaborative, encourages innovation, ability to share ideas without feeling stupid, check ins, right? Celebrates each other. Woo. Okay. In that spot. Love this list. Okay. Feel free to keep going on that if you would like. Okay. Beverly knows how to apologize. Wow. People are going to screw up. That's like human nature, right? In that spot. And when we screw up, just admit it. Say you're sorry and then learn and work at being better. We're not perfect. Okay. Love that. Accountability. Do what you say you're going to do. Please, right? Don't say it and then not do it. Okay. Integrity. I'm loving these words. Okay. So, what does our research tell us about this? Okay. So, if I share my screen again, this was what we were talking about in terms of what we didn't want to see. Okay. And this is the preferred behavior. Okay. Those are the words, right? Helpful is the number one word that we have heard over and over and over. Kind and respectful, and we oftentimes have to define, what does kind look like? Kind does not mean just always nodding your head and saying yes, right? Because that's also sometimes not honest. That can be passive aggressive. So think about that. Same thing with respectful. What does respectful look like? Inclusive, listens, all right? Brings optimism and positive energy to that table, shares information. Those were kind of the words behind the words in that particular space. All right. So as you look at that particular spot, right, those are the words and phrases. I'm going to put you back into your breakout rooms. I'm going to keep you in the same groups just because that will be easier. And here's what I want you to discuss. All right. What should we do about our jerks? Okay. What should we do about our jerks? And as you're talking about it, I want you to look at it from two perspectives. Leaders, okay? What do we expect our leaders to do about jerks? Some of you have formal leadership responsibilities. Maybe some of you don't have direct reports, okay? But what do we want our leaders to do? But don't leave it there, all right? I want you to go to the other side. When you're talking about coworkers, peers, colleagues, all right? What can you do? What is your responsibility when it's not hierarchical? They're a peer, all right? What is your kind of thing that you could do to make work be better and to have fewer jerks at work? I'm going to put you into your breakout rooms again. A new spokesperson. So don't make the same person do it every single time, right? So a new spokesperson. And I'm going to give you a little bit longer because I want to make sure that you do both. So I'm going to give you 4 minutes, 2 minutes on leaders and 2 minutes on peers. Any questions before I send you? All right, go for it. I'll talk to you in 4 minutes. Last but not least, Bobby Joe. You're muted.
I know. It's not letting me join. It's fine.
Oh, that's because you're a host.
It let me join last time, but this time it's not.
Kicked you out, huh? It's like,
Kick me out.
so sorry. Well, hopefully,
I'll
hopefully,
keep trying.
hopefully your groups in this particular spot, will do without you. Let's see if I can get, so Teresa is not in a group either. Let's see if I can get her in a group. Okay. Assign to. There we go. I'm trying.
If I do.
All right. You can hang out with me, Bobby Joe.
I'll hang out with you.
You can
tried.
answer this question. So, what do you think is the responsibility? Let's just go with staff. The leader is easy. So when it's a peer, what do you think the responsibility is?
I think that we have to put out what we expect. Sometimes I think the expectations that we put out for other people, we don't always follow ourselves. So first, I think it's that mirror, right? Make sure we're doing what we expect. But then from my perspective, I don't think it does anybody any good to not say anything. That's where I've had plenty of conversations with my peer group here where I'm like, hey, just so you know, how you emailed me that just was not acceptable. Like, I don't appreciate people talking to me that way. And here's why, and have conversations about it, which I think was maybe a new thing for a few people. But yeah. So I think mirror and make sure you're willing to have those conversations.
I like your two answers very, very much. And we will see what the rest say. Andrea, are you here or is it just your black screen? Don't know.
I see there's a couple people that have phones where they called in too. So I think there might be a couple duplicates.
Yeah, and that's sometimes why we get that feedback, because when we do breakout rooms, it won't know to take this picture and this and put them together. So that's always entertaining. There's nothing I can do in that particular case. So, all right, I am going to hit the lovely little button that says come back. There we go. So that will give them 60 seconds to come back. And then let's get my screen ready. Folks are headed back in, which is fantastic. Give you a couple more minutes, a couple more seconds to get everybody back in. All right. Just a few that have not joined in, but I think we're back. All right. So I am going to start. It was team 5. It would be room 5. You might not know who that is, but I have it down as Amanda and Dawn were in that room. So whoever's the spokesperson. All right. Give me one from that room that you think leaders should do. Amanda and Dawn, do you know what room we're talking about? Okay. Let's take a look. I can get full names. It's Amanda and Dawn and Heather and Kelly and Tiffany. Who is in that room and who's your spokesperson?
So I am, and you're asking about the leaders?
Yeah, one thing that leaders can do about jerks at work.
Yep, we had our big one for us was follow through. So when your employees are coming to you and talking to you about the jerk at work, following through.
Okay. So listen to employees, right?
Yep.
And then take action.
Yep.
About the jerk, with the jerk. Okay.
Right.
There. All right. Next team in that particular spot, I have Ann and Crystal, Crystal with a K, right? You guys give me one thing that, you know, when it's a peer, what can you do? All right. It's Hannah, Matthew Bishop. Wait, maybe that's not right. Sorry, wrong group. Let me get to the right room. It is Ann and Crystal with a K and Matthew Rendor and Sarah.
Okay, that was ours. So with a peer, and I think we kind of talked about this with both in a respectful manner.
I'm sorry, you broke up there, so say that again because you're a little frozen right now.
Okay. No, you said be honest and be candid with your peers in just a respectful manner to kind of bring out some of their actions to light.
So this is one of the things that is really hard, is that oftentimes we as peers think that we don't have the right to speak up, but we actually do. I have the right to say, hey, I would prefer if you would treat me this way. Okay. I have difficulty when this happens. Could you please do it this way? Now, that does not mean that we become a jerk back to them. It means that we are actually saying what it is that we want and doing that in a way that they can hear and still respects them as a human being. So I love that particular list. Good job. Okay. I'm going to team 7. Team 7 is Beverly, and I think you pronounce this name Janine, but I might be saying that inaccurately. Other people in that group were Drew and another Matthew. There's a lot of Matthews in this group, just so you know.
We ran out of time, actually. Are we doing leaders?
You can do either one. You tell me which one, and I'll put it there.
Okay, and I know this sounds pretty basic, but training. But what we want to add to that, just not your standard training, we want like follow-up and homework that they have to show evidence of the practice and putting it into place. So they're not just walking out of the room and checking the box that they did that.
Okay, and the training, if you could tell me, what is it on? What's your topic?
Civility or incivility.
Okay, so like let's hit it head on, right? Let's totally
Yes.
hit it head on in that particular spot. So civility training makes a lot of sense to me. I happen to call it No Jerks at Work, and this is an overview, but like what is jerkdom? What isn't jerkdom? Let's talk about it. Let's look at ourselves and let's figure out where we fall on that scale. Because by the way, all of us are jerks sometime. Okay, not all the time, but all of us are sometimes jerks. I mean, the other night, I was not very nice to my husband. I literally, we're in the middle of a remodel and I kind of had it and I was kind of giving him the old 1-2. And in the middle of it, all of a sudden I looked at him and I went, I need some food. I was hangry. Now, that's not an excuse for my jerkdom, all right? But I recognized in the moment that I was not being the kind of person that I wanted to be. And I then said, I need to do something different. And the first thing I needed was food. Second thing is I needed a big old pause, like put me in the corner like a 3-year-old, give me a timeout. And so I can get my head, back in the space so I don't treat my husband the way that I was treating him that day. So that piece of it, right, is follow up with homework and with expected behavior change. Absolutely. I love that very, very much. Okay. We're going to go to team 8. And team 8, I'm going to look for something with peers. Okay. So if you have that, kind of get that in your mind. And team 8, just so you know, is Jan, Carrie, Nancy, Rhonda, and Teresa. Okay. And it's Teresa, Dean, and Maybe it's Dean Sobus, or maybe there's a Sobus in there. I'm not sure, but in that particular spot, if you can give me one thing from that group that peers could do.
So we talked about a couple of things, and one thing that we mentioned was, if you have peers, to support them and for them to know that you're there to support them, have their backs, cover, if they need some extra help, cover for them, because they'll be back there to cover for you when you need it. So just really being supportive of your peers.
So this is an interesting thing. If we are in relationship with one another, if we already know each other, if we are in the spot that says we're in this together, that spot, now what happens when I have a bad day? One, you'll probably give me the benefit of the doubt. Second of all, like, stuff happens, and there are times when I'm gonna like need support and help, and those folks could be there for me, and vice versa. If they've been there for me, I will be there for them. And it allows us to have those ups and downs that all of us have in our life, just because stuff, right? We work and we work and we have home and we have other stuff, and we need that kind of grace that comes back and forth. So a really interesting one. Thank you very much. Bruce and Missy. And Bruce, it is the BRYCE, Bruce. That particular group, and I can get the rest of the names, but if you guys could give me one or the other, I don't care, peer or leader, an idea.
Actually, this could go for both, but we put it under leader, but show them the impact that they're having on others.
One of the things is that we judge folks and say, you're a bad human being. Okay. The fact of the matter is they are probably not a bad human being, and they might not understand that what they're doing is not okay. And they probably don't understand the impact of that particular behavior. Most of us are sometimes unconscious about what's going on and how our behavior impacts others. And if we can actually kind of hold up that mirror in that particular spot and help them understand the impact without diminishing them as a human being. All right. That is, by the way, not an easy skill. And it is one that, with training, with practice, with thinking about it beforehand, and not waiting until we're ticked off. Because when I have had enough, I handle it one way. When I see it the first time and I'm in neutral and I'm even tempered and I'm in control of myself, I will handle it better. And oftentimes we wait until we're so unhappy and frustrated that now we don't say it in the right way and we diminish people in the conversation. So catch it early. All right. Treat them as good human beings, because most of them are in this particular spot, and help them understand it's not that you're a bad person. It's that this is causing problems in the organization. This is why it doesn't work for us. Okay. Really good. Last but not least. All right. I am going to put Bobby Joe in the hot seat. She didn't get into a group, and she and I had a quick conversation. Bobby Joe, give me one about peers, would you?
I said, first, you have to kind of hold a mirror up to yourself and make sure you're putting out there what you are expecting other people to as well. And if you are, then have, like we talked about, those conversations. That's one of the things that I strive to do is, not let it build up, but just, let them know this is what's going on and why. So, yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So we have a pretty decent list. Anything else you guys want to add to this list? Like, share it and I'll put it on there. What else do you guys want to add for peers or leaders?
I would add, I always say get to the root. I have found that people who are jerks at work, there's so much more to it. I mean, I just addressed somebody the other day, and there was so much going on in their lives. They didn't realize that they were dragging it into work.
Okay. This, please, we don't always understand and know motivations. We can't necessarily even go, well, they have a good excuse for being a jerk. All right. However, when we talk with them, sometimes we understand that they have so much going on in the rest of their life that what's happening is they're getting a little squeezed and they're not necessarily paying attention to the impact of other human beings. So, again, if we can understand and help them understand the root cause in that spot, we can stop villainizing our jerks and we can help them recognize it's a choice of how they behave and they can choose differently and in that spot. So again, I'm not providing excuses. I am not going to say, oh, got to understand they have a sick parent, they have someone over here, that has cancer, this has happened and this has happened. We can provide excuses. There is no excuse for being a jerk, but we can help them recognize what are the pressure points and what can they do about those pressure points so that they do not push away the community that could be there to support them. Okay. Which in all honesty, we spend a lot of time at work with folks. This could be a supportive environment instead of one where we alienate folks. So I love that. Anything else that you guys would add to this?
I would say one of the recommendations I just used just last week, and this could be used for peers and for leadership, is just practice the pause. Don't be so reactive so quick. If there's a conflict, give it a day before, you react. Had an issue where a manager's like, nope, I want this person gone. And then a week later it was like, okay, we worked it all out. And so I just think that practice the pause is a very good suggestion in a lot of cases.
Rhonda, I love that. And I will tell you guys, not only do we have jerks at work, some of us have jerks in our extended family. I don't know if that's all true for all of you. I happen to have a brother-in-law that if you met him, Jack is one of the most wonderful, creative, interesting, great storytellers. I personally love him very much. My sister obviously adores him. They've been married 40 years. Okay. And Jack sometimes, when something happens in the family, says, oh, that's not right. This is why they did this. He takes and puts motivation on that. And then he sends out something that we call a missive. And it is this long email or this long letter that literally says, you're a jerk. You did this. That's not right. You did it because of these right reasons. And you need to fill in the blank. And I mean, those missives, they're mean and they're nasty and there's nothing nice about them. And they blow the family up. And one of the things that I have talked to Jack about, because two things, right? One, he sent one of those to me 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, I waited 2 weeks because I needed to get myself under control. That's practice the pause. And then I called him and I said, hey, I got your letter. And I want you to understand that the assumptions that you made were inaccurate. You were saying I was behaving this way because of this. That was not accurate. This is what was going on in my life. And I was quiet and withdrawn because this other stuff was going on in my life. And I just didn't want to share it with the family at that time. I just needed to be quiet. And I said, so your assumptions were wrong. And if you ever send this to me again, we are going to escalate this because talking to me like this is not okay. So you made a mistake, not a problem. I'm more than willing to talk through when we see things differently, but you will not talk to me like this, whether it's in an email, whether it's in a letter, or whether it is on the phone or in person. And of course, Jack has never done it before. Again, excuse me, because I drew the line. Okay. We need to have boundaries and we're allowed to have boundaries in that spot. Now, fast forward. My mother went into memory care in December. And if any of you have ever had that happen, it sends the family into the tailspin. And we all start pointing fingers and we all have different ideas and all that stuff. It's just terrible. Okay. I'm sure many of you experienced it. Jack did not practice the pause and he sent a letter to another family member in that space. And now the whole family is reeling because we have started these little conversations in triangles. Okay. And instead of addressing Jack's behavior, we're starting to blame people for how they responded to those missives. So that's another thing that I want you guys to know. Go directly to the source. Okay. Actually, taking and getting other people involved is really difficult and really painful, and it doesn't work. Going to the source is both places. Leaders, go to the source, okay? If you are a peer, go directly and have that conversation. Be willing to set those boundaries, okay, in that particular space. So guys, what we have done so far today is we said, hey, what does jerk-like behavior look like? Okay, how does it impact an organization, the people that are inside of the organization? What are we looking for? And, right, what can we do when we are a peer? And what can we do when we are a leader? All right. We have 5 minutes, and I'm just going to open it up and use this time period for you guys to ask me questions, and we can discuss it and come up with, suggestions and advice for one another. What else in our 5 minutes would you like to know or discuss? Sarah, go for it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who said it, but we were curious. The training and development piece, something that seems, very kind of simple. We train, we develop, and then we learn from there. But the extra piece of the follow-up and homework, we were just curious of what that has looked like for some folks, that homework piece and follow-up piece specifically.
Anybody have ideas around that?
In our organization, we have a learning management system that has short little training modules in there, but there's a whole series called Respectful Workplace. And depending on what their behavior is, we have assigned those to associates to give them tips and tricks on how to handle a conflict, for example, or something along those lines, and then have them kind of after that training come back and discuss it with their leader.
So one of the things, and just so you know, anytime you read something, anytime you go to a workshop, especially if it's a talk at workshop kind of a thing, if you want to deepen the learning and see a return on investment, it's the conversation afterwards. They actually say the conversation afterwards is going to help you go further, dig deeper, retain, and use. It increases it by 75%. All right. So if you're using an LMS system, they're doing independent learning by themselves. That's an activity. We need to take it from the activity to actually having that have some kind of what am I going to do differently? Okay. And so that is a great example of making sure that, hey, we're following up with that particular conversation. Good. Matthew, go for it. Matthew C.
Yeah. So on the last interaction there, we split everything up between leaders and not leaders. And I don't know why we did. I didn't see anything on either side that couldn't have been used for each other. And it's an unacceptable behavior at all levels. So I'm not really sure why we divided that up. I think we treat every person at every level the same for this issue. And obviously the conversations that you might have would change in small bits, but of course that's going to be specific for any specific individual and circumstance.
Matthew, you are just brilliant. So just so you know, you got it, right? Too often we have people who say, it's not my job, it's my boss's job. Okay. And oftentimes it's go fix that, go talk to that person. You have to have the hard conversations. And the research is super clear that honestly, if you're experiencing it or you're seeing it, you need to have the conversation with that particular individual. Don't worry about your title and don't make somebody else go do it. It is your responsibility. And so you actually just made the point. Thank you very much. That space. There was another question and said, are there tools? 2 things that I will tell you. I'm sure many of you use assessment tools like DISC, predictive index, those types of pieces. Find the most valid tool that you can use to help people understand what are their strengths, what are the things that they're really good at. And then what are the places that, even though they're really good at that, it comes with a downside. So for instance, I'm a very assertive person. That's great. It has held me in good stead. It's helped me be where I am today. But there's a downside to that. And when we understand those ups and downsides, it allows us to actually use self-modification techniques. Because no matter what you are naturally, DISC, I'm a high D, okay, or I'm a low C, okay. In a predictive index, I am seen as someone who's super collaborative. All of those are wonderful traits. And if I don't understand that there are times that I need to modify that, I'm not stuck with that. I actually can use energy to help me get the outcomes I'm looking for. Then I have the chance to grow. So that's the first thing that we're going to recommend. Find a tool that is actually extremely valid, super accurate. Okay. And then the second piece of that is I would tell you, help people understand that they can grow in this area. And third thing, if you do not have behavioral standards in your organization that are part of your job descriptions, part of your values, part of your performance evaluation, we can hold people accountable to values. We can hold people accountable to behavior, and we can track it right back to organizational performance and impact on others. And so we do not have to avoid this conversation. We can actually make it part of the conversation every day. So you need to come to work and do the work that we have hired you to do. And you need to do it in a way that aligns with our organizational's behavioral expectation. And those two things together equals performance. According to me, it is 11:01, and I promised someone that I would let you go at exactly 11, which means I'm 60 seconds over. And please know I would love to come and talk with you about how we have helped organizations root out jerks at work, as well as have people understand how they, even though they're great employees, even though they add value to the organization, sometimes they're jerks too. And all of us need to be able to self-modify so that we can become a productive and valued member of the organization for all of us, the tasks that we do and how we interact with human beings. Thanks for your time and attention today. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Tammy. We appreciate it. Just so everybody knows, after the event, we will send out the slides as well.
Bye now. Have a good day. All right. I think there's something up here that says I can stop recording. Just I'm not sure exactly where it is. Working on it. I'll find it. It's just a matter of
Oh, yeah. I go to the more button.
That's where I went and I didn't see it there. So that's
Let
I'm
me
like,
see if I can do it.
oh, hold on a second. Yeah, you might be able to do it too.